What's up, everybody? Bike Race Tales from a bike race hotel in Langley, Virginia. Going to do the VA State Masters Crit and then the non-state P123 Crit. So I want to talk about some tales from the bike races, the past ones, Capital Region, which was New York State Road Race, the Northwinds Gravel Race, and then also to start it off, I've gotten a bunch of messages of like, dude, you're back racing. I thought you weren't racing. What's going on? And then on the other flip side, when I went to Amateur Nationals, more curiosity I think I opened up than maybe put to sleep for people asking me, hey, do you think you just had a bad day racing? I was following your training when you were gone. It seems like you were just doing a lot of big miles. What was your strategy? And I've realized that I don't want to say I haven't been honest on this channel. I just haven't told the whole story. I'm going to keep it super brief and we'll get into these, but I think it's important, especially because somebody asked me, hey, I thought Landry was coaching you before and you just mentioned that he's coaching you now. So we'll give you the 1 minute overview. Man, I don't even know how to jump into this. Last year, alcohol's a problem for me. I guess I'll just say that. And last year in the fall, it reared its head and really became a problem. And so people that follow me on Instagram, maybe I don't post much about it, but I had gone on a 1,000-day sobriety challenge because I needed to. When I was living in Memphis, things got hairy. And for the first time in my life, I felt like alcohol was making choices and I wasn't. And that really scared me. So I said, I joked to a friend, I'm going to go 100 days. And he's like, that's a long time. I said, screw it, I'm going to go 1,000 days. Well, after 1,000 days, you're kind of far away from the problem. And I was like, I guess I can drink again. And then very quickly it became a problem. And so when I had first posted that I was going to have Landry coach me, I decided, okay, I need to get help with this and I need to sort of figure out what the hell's going on. And I'm trying to live a sober life. It's definitely a work in progress. And so I had said to Landry, I'm like, yo, dude, you know what? I don't even know what I'm doing for racing. Like, I need to focus on this. I didn't even really tell him exactly what was going on. And because I didn't really know what was going on. And so in doing that, I decided bike racing was not going to run my life. Bike racing was not going to make decisions. Maybe I'll race, maybe I won't. Landry, I'm going to go do some self-coaching and just like, I just need to focus on I can't even remember what I told him. So I was motivated through the winter. And then, my default is do big rides. And so I just started doing lots and lots of big rides. And I could go out and get a couple KOMs. I knew my depth wasn't there, but I wasn't too worried about it. And then when spring came, a bunch of events did get canceled, but I also wussed out on some races. Like I was going to do a Grand Fonda with Owen and it was raining and I was like, I'm just going to leave. And part of that was because I was riding too much. Big mega weeks, 25, 30-hour weeks are good in small doses in base season, but when I kept doing them, I started to get addicted to the idea of, maybe I'll ride 1,200 hours this year. Maybe that'll be kind of fun. And it wasn't until I went to Amateur Nationals that I realized how much I love the actual race, love the actual journey, love really going and smashing and the intensity. And as much as I promote aerobic training here on this channel, I hope that the main message is that creates the base and foundation for everything that you do at higher intensities. And I do think that there's a lot of people much smarter than me that are hyping Zone 2 because it's in vogue right now, but they're not also following it up and saying, hey, if you want to go race, hey, if you want to be your best at hour 2, 3, 4, you need to be doing the right intervals. And in order to do that, you might need to do a little bit less base. Like, we want to do these big mega weeks, but then the volume should come down as we get into race season. And I didn't do that. So I'm super pumped to still be sober. I'm super pumped to have the fire reignited. And I think, part of it also, I'm not going to make a whole podcast about this because this is probably boring to some of you, but I looked around after turning 40. A lot of my race buds have gone in other directions with their lives. And I had to make sure that I was doing bike racing for me, for my love of it, and not because I've just always been doing it. Or even worse would be doing it for external external motivation from, hey, you do well and people give you kudos. Like, was my brain messed up in that? And so stepping away, not doing the races, kind of saying nah, and then coming back and being like, maybe I'll see if I want to do this. I'm freaking hyped. So doing a crit today for the first time in over a year. But yeah, so Landry is now coaching me. I pay Landry. I definitely would never have a free coach because then I know they're not like fully invested. And the reason I picked Landry was when we went on our gravel race together in Ohio. I saw him doing athlete files, and I've talked to him obviously a ton about coaching and his sort of methodology. Just seeing him grind and what we talked about in the hotel room, I was like, this dude will be good for me. So super pumped. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. I think, the last thing. One thing I did was I thought, why did I start riding a bike? Why did I want to do this? What was I riding for before I wanted to get fast? And now I have to be careful with that because that led me into just riding long all the time and just like, I'm riding and I'm burning calories and I'm having fun. That got stale after a while. So, but I think it's a good reset. Go ride, forget the heart rate, be out there, don't look at watts, get in the groove and see what's happening. And I've stopped bike racing like 7 times. I'm like, I think I'm done with this. And I had an athlete that had a really rough year and he lost a lot of motivation, and we talked and he's like, I think I need to take a break. I'm like, yeah, you should do that. He's like, I thought you were going to say harden the F up. I was like, no, dude, that's not, toughing your way through it is not the way to do it. So, all right. Capital Region, big road race. I asked Josh Nagel, who knows the New York City scene way better than I do now, hey, who on this list could win the race? And he sent me back the pre-reg list with a lot of names highlighted. And so I looked up some of these guys and I was like, oh, damn, this is some fast people. Fast people that I didn't know. Then guys like Curtis White, pro cross guy, rode with Best Buddies last year. Ripper. Just a lot of fast people. And so the last time I had done this, I got dropped very early, maybe the first lap, because I attacked. It's just steep, pitchy climbs, 2-minute, 4-minute full gas efforts. The feed zone's on a slight climb, and then the harder climb is down the road. And I just went way ham. And this was back when Robin Carpenter was on BikeRadio, and him and 10 guys countered me, and I just never saw him again. So my strategy was going to be conservation. But thinking about the race, something for my newer cyclists that I was thinking of is I've been trying to hone in, get my brain on race eating. You know, the carbs. I think those rice packets that you can microwave in a hotel room are gold. I brought some oats, and then when I start drinking sugar more heavily for whether it's sugar. If you're like, oh, I don't drink sugar water, but I drink this drink mix, that's sugar. If you're drinking sugary stuff, and if I don't eat a lot of sugar now off the bike when I'm not actually riding. And I think the mass amounts was kind of messing with me as I would start to like, hey, I'm going to eat like I'm going to go race. My gut just wasn't used to that. So I've been trying to bring in some like cereal into the mix. So I think rice packets, oats, and some cereal was a really good pre-race meal. And then the other random thing, make sure you bring some Tupperware, a spoon, a fork, a sponge, and a small little thing of dish soap so you can clean your bottles in between races. For my newbie cyclists, having all those little things that makes your life easier and takes no space in a little side bag with your race bag, it's gold. It's going to be hot. I actually said, hey, maybe I'll use a hydration pack. The biggest thing holding me back from doing that in a road race is the heat. I don't even care so much about the weight, but it would just be hot after a while. So I decided I had to do 4 bottles. And even though I know I would need more water, 3 bottles, you might still be in the mix and it might still be super busy with other, just the race might be full gas. And I wanted to have a 4th bottle. I did them in the 2 side pockets and it was amazing. I drank 1 bottle off of the bike, threw in the feed zone, took 1, put it in the back, and then I moved my syrup thing from the middle to the side and the 3rd bottle from the side to the middle pocket. That's a game changer for me. Did not feel bad. I actually felt nice. Like the weight was perfectly even. And then really, I think on a course like this, I just want to give tips from these that I think you can apply to your own racing. When there are going to be definite, decisive areas on the course. And I'm not saying, I've talked about how if there's a climb, it's smart to think about attacking before if you can get enough of a lead with a small group. Like, you always have to be ready. But this one climb was going to be explosions. And if you are pulling on the front, wasting energy, doing silly attacks that go nowhere, that is not going to help the cause. And when we got, how far were these laps? It was about mile 60. So with 2 laps to go, we were coming up to the hard climb, and I'm like, oh, man, I know somebody's going to go on this. And this is like, you just have that feeling after you do this for a while. So I moved to the front, and I was second wheel. And as we started to come up on the climb, I wasn't going to go full blast because I know it's about a 4-minute max effort, but I was going to set a good pace, and 2 guys go flying up the side. And as they came up on the left, a guy slid over to the right in front of me, so it made me hesitate for a second. And I'm like, oh, man, these dudes, this is the move. And, I mean, maybe not the move, but it's a move that I want to be in the mix because I knew the guys behind me were going to be coming. So I didn't immediately chase them down. I had maybe 3 or 4 bike lanes between us, and it goes up, it evens out, and then it gets steeper, and then you're at the top. And I figured in the middle, I was going to try and bridge over. And when we got there, I couldn't. And I was like, oh, this might be bad. And we hit the incline. I talk about this in another podcast, so I'll be brief here. But Curtis White actually gave me a push towards them. And I was so on the limit. I can't exactly see it in my head. Maybe I was a bike lane through 2 bike lanes from them. And I was like, I just got to attach. And I just couldn't. I knew any more was explosion time. And so I slid over. And before that, I had flicked. I didn't know who it was. I didn't even look back. Flicked them through so they could like close the gap if they wanted to. And they're like, And so I think that's when Curtis gave me the push. And so I realized it was Curtis. And I then slid over to the right, and he came by me, and he said something like, uh-oh. And he started going backwards. And I looked, and no one was with us. And so I hit the gas after these dudes, and I got so close. And then that was it. The 3 of them looked around and realized it was the 3 of them and started rotating as they hit the flat top and just took off. And so I was caught in between and went back to the second group. You know, I was bummed to not make it there. And I was bummed these guys roasted the course. I am assuming I would have gotten dropped later anyways, but I would have loved to try and stick with them or see how they rode it after they blasted everybody on that climb. And after the race, a girl at the Genevieve at the gravel race, when I got there, she had a really great question to me. She said, "So you happy with the effort?" And I said, "Absolutely." I realized Cameron Cogburn was there. He hasn't been racing in 5 years, but Cameron's a dude I looked up to. He, was on Jelly Belly. He guest rode with us on Mount Bora before, and absolute ripper. And to finish in the mix with him, to finish in the mix with Curtis White, Speo, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, on Instagram, he was there. He bridged up to us. Insanely strong dude. Gino is his first name. And who else was there? And a guy from Estrellas, and I'm blanking right now on the podcast, but some really strong riders. And this gave me a huge motivational boost after sort of feeling blah after nationals, kind of questioning what racing meant to me. And I came into this weekend of, hey, I'm just going to go have fun. I just want to go rip. I'm going to try and race smart. And that's what I did. And so I think a good question we can ask ourselves is, are you happy with the effort? Because I didn't come close to winning. Would I come in 9th? 7th? I think 7th. I have to go look. No, 7th. And if I was still a New York State resident, I would have been 2nd in New York. But, Hakan, that's who it was, Sheffield, Magnus's older brother. And we had chatted on Instagram, and so it was great to race with him. He's from GVCC. And then the next day went to a gravel race, much smaller field. Shout out to my boy Abe. He was there first time we got to meet, and Rip. And I think the biggest lesson from that is a definite reminder, leave space in gnarly sections behind people in case they go down. Ketones were huge for me there. I did 150 grams of carbs an hour, and it still wasn't enough because I actually made the mistake of drinking a 100-gram bottle on the way over there of sugar water, and then I only had 600 grams, I want to say, and the race was a little over 4.5 hours. Ketones kept me going at the end. I was doing half a bottle at hour 1:30, 3, and then at 4. Oh, and at the start. And that's where my 2 bottles went. So the biggest thing I want to pass on this one is like, I made a foolish move of getting off the front early, and I thought somebody would bridge up, and they never did, and I kept going. That was dumb. Even though I had a gap, I should have pulled the plug. There was no way I was going to stay away from 6 motivated guys. I think maybe ride it for half an hour. I was out there for an hour and a half. So I was a little worried when they caught me. The biggest thing is when you commit to something, fully commit and think. You have to think through it very quickly. But as we were coming up, there had been a bunch of it. There had been maybe like 10 minutes of people attacking. But one guy started it, and then we eventually shelled him with some counterattacks. We got down to 4 guys, and I knew that everybody wasn't super fresh. And there was this stair step climb coming. And how did I know that? I had it on my map. Have the elevation, the altitude on your map, and ride with this while you're training so you know what those climbs look like. And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm going to bang this thing out. And I'm going to go full blast to the top of the first one, but not so much that I can't pedal. It's like I'm going to go 95%, recover real quickly on the downhill, and then smash it to the top of the next one. Even if I just do threshold, I'll have some momentum and I'll be going. I didn't even look back. It was like, if people are with me, great. It'll put another notch in people as well as myself. And if I get a gap, I'm going for it. I was 20 miles from the finish. And committing to that, I think when you see someone take off and you're not feeling great and they don't look back at you, it's like, oh, damn, they're going. And so the tip is like, know your surroundings and know when guys or girls aren't feeling great. You can see how they're pedaling, you see how they're acting. Catch them by surprise if you can, and use the features of the course. It really, and then I got away, and then it was, hey, get out of sight. And then they eventually stopped the last rest stop, which I wish I knew that because I would have slowed up. But yeah, I had a hydration pack. I wasn't stopping for anything. And then my buddy Abe came across the line in third, and I think they didn't sprint. I don't know why they didn't sprint, but the other guy got second, Paul from Squad. And great race. Northwinds Gravel, I would definitely go back. If you're in the upstate New York area, I would put it on your calendar. They had some of the best post-race food I've had. Legit barbecue, an amazing pasta salad, homemade ice cream sandwiches. I didn't get who made those. And they had really cool awards. So anyways, I will talk in the next race recap. I think so. The thing with these stories is I think there's a lot that we can share with each other that goes beyond hey, I did these watts for this and I did this for this. Sometimes I try to see what works for other people, and I don't know if there's much benefit for you of me being like, I did this and da-da-da. Hopefully we can look at races and understand how do we take what we learn in the races, apply it to our training so that we get faster for the next race. And I think the thing about racing too, no training like racing. When I got dropped to Capital Region, that's been a season best 3-minute 45-second effort, which came 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours into the race. That's how hard you will be able to push yourself when you race a bike. So would recommend getting in some races, especially before your A race. I think I talked about it on another podcast. You really can't have an A race that's your first race unless you have some training races beforehand, in my mind. Then the amount of anaerobic time and just the amount of VO2 max time, just stuff that you can't self-inflict. And also it's that reactionary movement of, oh, damn, I got to go now. When we're doing intervals, it's like, okay, and 3, 2, 1, go. And here I go. And you go really hard. And that was the thing I let myself get fooled with too, with riding too much and going and getting a couple K. I was like, oh, I'm putting out great watts. I was wrecked after. But, you look at the one effort and you're like, oh, yeah, it's fine, whatever. There's no hiding in the sport. That's what I love about it. So it's good to be back. I think my biggest thing now is trying to balance racing and family time and not wanting to be gone every weekend. And I really love where I'm living in Blowing Rock, so I want to have time there. So, yeah, it's a work in progress. But the journey of racing continues, and looking forward to some big events coming up. Masters Nats, I might do Masters Green Mountain. A few of the Boone Grand Fondo. That's going to be super fun. We've got an EVOQ camp in September. A couple other gravel events. So, yeah, things are still rolling. Thanks for tuning in. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave us a review. People are slacking on that. We really need your help. And if you can help us on Spotify by hitting follow. And obviously, if you're still here on YouTube, subscribe. Helps us a ton. And let me know, what do you guys think of recaps like this? Get into the Salisbury Circuit race next and Virginia Crits today in a couple hours. See ya.